I just wanted to tell you when I was looking at it on the Quran, and also this guy on TV is talking Turkish man. He's saying that Islam is makes no sense. He's saying that man can have, you know, 70 virgin, hundreds of virgin, as long as he has sex with them, God will send them again virgin and virgin and virgin, and they will have sex like a big orgy in heaven. And I was like, oh my God, that's just, I know this was a little bit true, but I really read it and I was like, I don't think I want a heaven where people constantly having sex and a big orgy. I think this heaven for me is the place with my family, with my loved ones, and front of God, and live with blessing, abundant life with my husband, my children, my friends, my mom, dad, like a normal life continues in heaven forever. But not one man can have the five power of in one man and can have sex. Those things are so wrong, and I feel like that's worshiping maybe the wrong God.
So first of all, I would like to know, where did you get that from? I would like to see the dalil, which is the proof from the hadith and the Quran. All right? Please prove it to me, because I know that you have no knowledge in the Quran or the hadith to come and talk to me about that. You're just copying and pasting what the Islamophobes saying. The second thing is, whoever think about sex in this way and only think about men having orgies and all that, then I'll tell you what, he's a pervert. So if you want to go and follow people, perverts and sick-minded like this, please, you are more than welcome to do that. But let me go ahead and answer on your misconception about this. Well, first of all, you have to know that God talks about Jannah in the Quran from three different perspectives: the physical part, the spiritual part, and the mental part. Because the human being is not only just physical, it's not only just spiritual or mental, but he's all three. That's what makes him a human. In the Bible, it only talks about the spiritual. In the Bible, it only talks about the torture of hellfire, but it doesn't talk about the Jannah, by the way. I challenge you, there is not even a single religion that talk about Jannah like the Quran does, like Islam does. Christianity only talk about the hellfire, and the hellfire has fire that never goes off, that has worms that goes into the body and eats the body, and it does not die with the fire, and the skin keeps regenerating. And that's what Jesus say in the Bible, by the way. If you go to Revelation and you're going to tell me, well, Jannah is mentioned in Revelation, the last chapter, go and read the last chapter of Revelation, because it really doesn't talk about Jannah other than those people are going to go into that city and they're going to be happy. And they're going to be just like praising the sun. And that's all what they're going to talk about. That's all what they're going to do. All right? That's it. But in Jannah, it is very prescriptive. If you read the Quran, it has so many verses and the hadith that talk about Jannah in a very nice way, in a very beautiful way. And let me go ahead and give you some examples. In chapter 78 of the Quran, verse 32, it says, "Indeed, for the righteous is attainment gardens and grapevines." Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "I have prepared for my pious worshippers such things as no eye has ever seen, no ear has ever heard of, and nobody has ever thought of. All that is reserved, besides which all that you have seen is nothing." Then he recited from the Quran, "No soul knows what is kept hidden," in reverse, "for them of joy as a reward for what they used to do." So as I said, in Jannah, in the Quran, there are three types of joy. We have the physical, we have the emotional and psychological, and we have the spiritual. Well, here's what psychopaths and Islamophobes do. They always take a part from the Quran or the Hadith and they only focus on this part. They take it out of context. After that, they serve it to you in a very bad way on a silver platter, telling you, oh, look at Islam, it's all bad. So let's start with the spiritual. It says in verse 23 of the Quran, chapter 75, some faces that will be radiant looking at their Lord. The best view that the believers are going to have in Jannah is that they're going to have that intimate relationship. They're going to see their Lord, their face of their Lord, face to face. They're going to see God, Allah. And this is actually one of the best things in Jannah. All these physical things, spiritual or even like the mental things, those are nothing comparing to seeing God himself and talking to him face to face. And all the scholars, with no exception, they all tell you that the best thing in Jannah is not sex. The best thing in Jannah is seeing your Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second thing it says here that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, the one who was devoted to the Quran will be told on the day of resurrection, recite and ascend in ranks as you used to recite when you were in the world. Your rank will be at the last ayah you recited. The Prophet, peace be upon him, also said, his throne will be shown to them, talking about Allah, and he will appear to them in one of the gardens of paradise. Chairs of light and chairs of pearls and chairs of rubies and chairs of chrysolite and chairs of gold and chairs of silver will be placed for them. Those who are of a lower status than them, and none of them will be regarded as insignificant, will sit on sand hills of musk and camphor, and they will not feel that those who are sitting on chairs are seated better than them. Should I keep going? Okay, let me keep going. Another spiritual joy. The Quran says in chapter 57, verse 12, on the day you see the believing men and the believing women, their light preceding before them, and on their right it will be said, your good tidings today are of gardens beneath which rivers flow, wherein you will abide eternally. That is what is the great attainment. In the hadith, it also says that women are going to Jannah, because that combats the misconception that you may tell me, well, where is the Jannah for women, only for men? Because the Prophet, peace be upon him, said most of the women in hellfire, which is untrue. Because I'm going to show you right now from the hadith that most women also in Jannah. The number of women is double of the men's number. Prophet, peace be upon him, said that each man in Jannah is going to have 2 wives, all right? And each woman will have a husband. So each person will be with a companion from the other sex, right? And so what it's saying over here that the numbers of women are more than the numbers of men. And because of that, that means most of women in Jannah as well. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said about his wife, here is Khadija coming to you with a dish of food or a tumbler containing something to drink. Convey to her a greeting from her Lord Allah, and give her the glad tidings that she will have a palace in paradise built of qasab, wherein there will be neither any noise nor any fatigue or trouble or depression. Also in chapter number 9, verse 72, it says, Allah has promised the believing men and believing women gardens beneath which rivers flow, wherein they abide eternally, and pleasant dwellings in gardens of perpetual residence. But approval from Allah is greater. It is what which is great attainment. We talked about the mental and the spiritual joy. Now we're going to talk about the physical, which everybody who is a non-Muslim or an Islamophobe try to focus on and saying, oh, well, Jannah is only for sex and orgies and all that dirty things that they say, which is untrue. Now, let me tell you something about the physical joy, all right? Now, in our world here on earth, all right, what is the greatest joy a person can have? Food? Maybe. Being in a good health? Of course. Yeah. Having children? Yeah, for sure. But the best joy, physical joy that we all know, especially for the ones that they have been married and they experience marriage, is sex, right? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran does not only care about the spiritual part of the human being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not only care about the mental and the psychological health of that person, but also for the physical health. All right. And we know the physical health is the best thing to have is to be married and to have that physical joy with a spouse, right? So why not have it also in Jannah? But is it the only thing in Jannah? And that's only thing that men will do in Jannah? That's wrong. No. Because by the way, the Quran mentions that, but in a very little thing and in a very modest way. Allah mentions about the spiritual and the mental in a very provocative way, in a very beautiful way. But when it comes about the sexual part, it doesn't talk about it in a sexual way. It talks about it in a very modest way. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very modest in his talk. And even the Prophet, peace be upon him, is a very shy person. So let me tell you what the woman will have in Jannah. The Quran says in chapter 56:37, indeed we have produced the women of paradise in a new creation and made them virgins, devoted and of equal age. Each woman, when they grow up, they wish that their body goes back when they were 20s when they were 30s in their prime time. And they wish that they go back to the days even before they got married, going back to be virgins. Okay, why? Because their body was the most fit. It was the most beautiful. Their skin was the most radiant, right? So it's okay. That's a good thing that Allah will recreate us as women to be beautiful again. And the men the same way, because the next ayah talks about the men and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will create them as they have been in their prime age as well. It doesn't talk about sex over here, right? Also, the hadith saying that if a woman is widowed and her husband died and she loved that husband, and the same thing for the husband, if his wife died and he loves her, and they both went to Jannah, Allah will reunite them back together. And that's a beautiful thing, that the two souls are going to be reuniting again, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And that's a beautiful thing. But have you thought about that? Did the Islamophobes thought about this? No. They only think about sex. That's all what they think about. We have three types of joys in the Quran: the spiritual, the emotional, and the physical. And Allah mentions all three of them in a very beautiful way, in a modest way, and in the best way, that the man and the woman are going to experience the best joy ever in Jannah. And there is nothing wrong with that.